Today I want to talk about a quick little subject, but a very advanced one. So basically, if you're interested in Elvish at all, you might know about Neo-Elvish, which is the continuation of Professor Tolkien's work, basically, where the community of Elvish learners, Tolkien scholars, tries to make up new words and rules based on the established ones that Mr. Tolkien created himself to create a fuller picture of Elvish, of Sindarin, Quenya, to be able to speak them more fully, more fluently. And basically to speak those languages fluently or almost fluently, you have to use at least a tiny bit of Neo-Elvish. And if you've watched the Elvish month before, you might know about my courses. I have Elvish courses in my community, you can check them out with the link in the description. But you may be wondering, how do you create a course while using the least amount of Neo-Elvish as possible that represents, Professor Tolkien's original vision? Neo-Elvish, as I've said, can sometimes be just about making up new words based on theories, guesses, intuition, and, maybe even just ones that sound nicely, But it can also be about just slight changes, or more specifically, imagine that you have a word in Sindarin, and then you have another word in Quenya, and you know that they are related, they come from the same primitive Elvish root word, okay? And they are very similar. Now let's take another primitive Elvish root word that is very similar to this one as well. It's the same, it's the same part of speech, same number of syllables, same vowels, just different consonants. And then let's say that we have a Sindarin word based on that root, which also looks very similar to the Sindarin word that Mr. Tolkien created for the first root word. But for that second root word, we don't have a Quenya word, a Quenya representation created originally by Professor Tolkien. But since it's all so similar, and so far it's been exactly the same in the second scenario as in the first, we can basically make an educated guess that the Quenya word will also look very similar, basically the vowels will be the same as in the first scenario, and again just the consonants will change. And through this rule, basically finding places in Elvish that should have been filled by Mr. Tolkien, where all the rules should apply. Basically, there are little to no contradictions, there's no room for guesses, just finding those places in Elvish where that other rules that were created specifically by Professor Tolkien apply, and for some reason they haven't, the words haven't been created. You can venture a guess, an educated one. You can say that, yeah, this is how this word, this translation would have looked like. You can be pretty sure about it, that this is the original vision, of Mr. Tolkien. And vice versa, if we have words that follow a pattern, many words, many conjugations, stuff like that, but we don't have a specific named rule created by Mr. Tolkien for that, we can also venture a guess and say that, yeah, this is a rule and it can be applied to further words. And just the fact that, Professor Tolkien didn't name that rule specifically doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, within Elvish as a separate entity. Yeah, basically we treat Elvish here as a separate entity, like a living, breathing, existing language, Sindarin or Quenya. And through that, and through being careful and very observational, we can fill in the gaps, at least for the phrases, translations, scenarios we need. And that's what I do in my Elvish courses. I hope that, clears some confusion of how you can use Neo-Elvish to learn Elvish fully and still be, within Professor Tolkien's original vision. If you want to supercharge your learning, check out my courses in the description. And either way, I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Elvish Month. Na ver.